the tree of life brought down to earth and explained probably in the simplest way imaginable. My goal in this video is to try to give the clearest possible explanation of the 10 Sephirot of the Kabbalistic tree of life and how it works. So, let's jump right in. These top 3 spheres are called mohin in Hebrew, and it means the brains, the mind. Keter, Chokmah, and Binah, that is what mohin means. Of course, it goes far beyond the brain or the meat brain, but that is what mohin means, and it refers to these top 3. Keter, Chokmah, and Binah. These are often referred to collectively as kahab, because in Kabbalah we often make acronyms. It's called Natarakon, where the first letter of each name of multiple things becomes a word. Kahab, Keter, Chokmah, and Binah. And today we're going to talk about Chesed, Gever, and Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, and Malkut. We're going to break all of this down. Actually, maybe we should start from the bottom. Malkut refers to the physical world, our physical universe. Everything we think of as matter, as physical matter. The physical universe is Malkut, and it's the physical body. And Malkut consciousness, this is where most people are when they're driving to work, when they're getting on the train, or I don't know, whatever. Cooking food, watching something, right? Most people are at their everyday Malkut physical reality. You live in the physical world. And so this is the bottom. Everything above Malkut refers to higher spiritual realities, or in a human being, going behind the outer husk or shell to these deeper layers within our being. Yesod refers to our connection with the world, with events, with life. It is in the reproductive area if you put the map on the human body, but it's not referring to just sexuality at all. It's referring to all connection with the world, with all people, all events, with life. Anytime you're having a connection with the world, and you have to have a connection to connect these. It also is what connects the higher levels of the soul, our higher spiritual consciousness. It also what crystallizes and connects it to the physical world. So we have these higher spiritual layers of our being, but when we're incarnated in matter, it's Yesod that connects that to matter. It's like the glue in that way. It's foundation. Now, these are very simple to explain. Hod and Netzach. This is so simple. Anytime you're having an experience, listening to this video is Hod consciousness, or Hod energy. Listening to this video. Anytime you're taking in your environment, if you go sit outside and you listen to the birds, you look at the trees, you see cars pass, anytime you're taking in your reality around you, you're experiencing, you're receptive to your experience. That's Hod. Hod consciousness. Hod means splendor, and it could be thought of as like a mirror. It's the receptive part of our consciousness that takes in our environment. It's receptive, it receives and it experiences the world. Netzach on the opposite pillar, because these pillars represent energy polarities. And then you have a middle pillar. But anyways, on one side Hod, on the other, Netzach energy is anytime you express. You're outwardly expressive. It is our thoughts, our actions, our words. It is anytime we express ourselves and our world is Netzach energy. Right now, me speaking and making this video is I'm having Netzach consciousness, Netzach energy. I'm expressing. Right now, you listening to the video is Hod. You're experiencing. Okay, so we have this interaction. And it's very important to develop these aspects of consciousness. So, let's take an example of taking a walk in the woods. You're going to go take a nature walk. You walking, that's your expressing in your environment. You're walking, and you pick up a rock, you set it down, you walk around. That is netzach. That's your expression. You're expressing yourself in your human experience. Hold is listening to the birds, looking at the trees, experiencing. Now here's the lesson of hold. A lot of people, they have they're great at netzach. They don't listen to life. It's about listening to feedback in life. A lot of people are always expressing, creating. They're working really hard. They don't know why they're coming up with obstacles. They're working hard. They're constantly expressing. It's because they're not listening. They're not paying attention to life. That's hold. Developing hold consciousness is about listening to your life, paying attention to your life, picking up on the subtle hints. And hold also has to do with adaptability, changeability. Often it's our experiences, if we pay attention to our experiences, that we change things up. Usually when we make changes, it's because we're experiencing. Now these can be off. The Sephiroth could be off, right, from how it needs to be. Working upon the Sephiroth, opening up the paths, the flows of Sephirotic flows, called Shefa. In Hebrew, it's the flow of energy, Shefa. We have to open up these paths. This is life. The tree of life is how we live. It's not something you read in a book. The tree of life is not something you just read in a book and you think about sometimes when you want to do a working. The tree of life is in your drive to work. It's in eating your meal. It's in watching TV. It's going to bed at night. The tree of life is in every single moment. So, the lessons are real. The lessons, when applied, will change your life. This is what Kabbalah is supposed to do. And there's a lot of people, they write books on Kabbalah, they study it. Okay, I get the Sephiroth. How do I live it? How do I make it real? How do I make it on a drive to work? How do I connect with the Kabbalah? Well, here we go. Hold. We need to be able to listen to the events in our lives. Pay attention. And then we'll be able to express ourselves properly. Sometimes people are too much netzach. Have you ever had a coworker that talked about something, not something we're interested in, like esotericism, okay? Let's say this person is just someone talking about their project. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and it's just all they talk about every time you see them. Some people don't get annoyed, but some people do. They have too much netzach energy. Hold energy is paying attention to life, listening. Hold requires, to have good hold energy, we have to have a certain acceptance. We have to see reality for what it is. That acceptance doesn't mean lying down and not fixing things. It just means accepting this is where I am right now, accepting your reality as it is. The sooner that you accept your reality for what it is, the sooner you can change your actions. You're acting properly in your life and in your environment. And of course, there's creative things that you can do to channel higher energies. But it should never be... This is one issue that I have with some forms of metaphysical work, is I think they try to skip steps. It could be effective. I think that we are reaching this Keter reality through positive thinking and things. But it shouldn't just be, I'm wealthy, I'm great. We should also pay attention to life, pay attention to feedback. In relationships, man, you learn how to pick up on cues and feedback, okay? Because a lot of times we just don't listen to the other person. So, in a nutshell, Netzach energy is anytime you're expressing, you're thinking, you're acting, your expression is Netzach. And your hold is your experience. It's you taking it all in. It's like a reflective mirror. Now, when these Sephiroth are well established and you've worked with them properly, then your expression will be victorious. Netzach means victory. You will be victorious in your expression. You'll be victorious in your actions. You'll be victorious in your speech and your word and what you're trying to express in the world. You'll have victory when we have the proper Netzach flow. Your experience will be splendorous. Hod means splendor. Your experience will be splendorous and your expressions will be victorious, and this will be the foundation of your physical world and reality. So these two aspects of consciousness, of experiencing and acting, expressing consciousness, make our connection, yesod, our connection, our relationship with life, our connection with events and people are going to be connected to our behavior, our expression, and our experience together crystallized as our reality also, which shows that these two forces within us, what we experience, could affect the flow. That's another level. You always have to look at two sides of things. What our experience of the world does kind of map the world, and so does our expression in it. Okay? To put it this way, we all may be walking on the same streets, but each of us is in our own universe. Both are true. Learning to include inner and outer, and not dismissing either. To hold these contraries in the consciousness and see both are true. Yes, I have my own universe, and yes, I live in a shared universe with others that are not just like NPCs to my... They exist. They have their being, and I'm in their world. And that's important for spirituality, to not get too wrapped up in your own world that you don't see the broader world behind your experience. So both things are true, inner and outer. There's a union, okay, between these polarities. Netzach is endurance, and it comes from this force. Netzach, energy that just raw expression, outward flow, is what we need to have endurance. And we need to have experience in order, we have to have experience in order to navigate our lives. So, very important. Now we're going to go up here. Chesed and Gevurah and Tiferet. I like to start with Gevurah here. Gevurah work is anytime you have to do something you don't feel like. So, if you don't feel like washing the dishes, or you don't feel like getting up for work, or you don't feel like doing something, and you have to do it, that's always going to be Gevurah work. Gevurah work is self-restraint. Gevurah work is always self-restraint and discipline. Anytime you have to get out of bed and go to work, anytime you have to do something that you need to do but you really don't feel like, that's Gevurah work, Gevurah energy. So always keep that in mind. The tree of life is not just something in a book. It's on your ride it's on your ride in your car. It's in your walk out in nature. It's in eating a meal. The tree of life is always present. Gevurah is any kind of restraint. Gevurah is what keeps us from walking out in traffic. You know, Gevurah is what controls. When you drive your car, Chesed is that going. Gevurah is the control, the steering. You're controlling with Gevurah. Anything that controls, Chesed is raw energy. Gevurah directs it. So when you pick up a fork to eat, that outflow of energy is your Chesed. But Gevurah is what controls the movement to make it where you can take a bite of food. That Gevurah force is what controls the movement to take a bite of food. Once again, Chesed and Gevurah is found in eating a plate of food. You're eating food. Chesed and Gevurah are there. The tree of life is always present. It's not just something in a book. So that outward flow is the Chesed. Gevurah is what controls the movement to work properly. Any type of control or discipline. Anytime you do something you don't feel like doing because it's a responsibility and you kind of have to do it anyway, you're dealing with Gevurah energy. And spiritual people have always seen the importance of asceticism even, which is taking this self-control to an extreme. Now, I'm not here to comment one way or the other about asceticism, but it is found in many different cultures. Someone will stand on one foot for 2 hours. People will fast, as long as you want to have, you want to be smart with things, but sometimes sleep deprivation, people push their limits. They want to go to sleep, but they keep themselves awake. These things should be done in small spurts, not as a lifestyle, unless you have some type of a physical embodied spiritual guide, not one in your head, which could be a real spirit, but you need a physical guide. You need a monk or somebody that's way experienced, not a internet occultist, someone that specializes in this type of work and has helped many students. You need somebody to guide you in like a prolonged sleep deprivation or anyways, those types of hardcore practices. But asceticism is all about learning control. Small periods of waking or fasting or controlling the urges, impulse control. Something interesting, one more thing I'll say about Gevurah is there are inhibitory centers in the brain. Self-control is inhibitory centers in the brain. I talked about this in my last video. Inhibitory centers actually stop neurons from firing. They actually prevent impulses in the brain. What that means is the more you practice self-control and self-discipline, the better you get at it. Your inhibitory centers in the brain are developed through practicing discipline. Those centers gets more dense, where they can block impulses. Block impulses. So, something, it kind of relates, kind of doesn't. But we know that, at least in neuroscience, that self-control could be developed and grown. Chesed energy is any type of expansive force. Any type of expansion is going to be a chesed energy. Anytime, it is the yes, and Gevurah is the no. Again, the tree of life is found in every moment. Do I reach for another slice of pizza? Chesed is the yes. Yeah, I want another slice of pizza. Gevurah is no, I don't need another one. It's that self-restraint. Anytime you say no to something, I'm not doing that, that is Gevurah energy, and these both unite at the heart. There's a little bit of repetition of what I've said last night, but I think I'm going to look at this a little differently. But Tiferet, it has to be said, Tiferet, the heart. We have love and we have strength and courage, both at the heart. We understand that if we're going to map courage and strength, Gevurah, with love or chesed, they're both going to center in the heart. Because we have love. Where do we put love? We put love at the heart. We put courage and boldness at the heart. So, strength and love. There are different levels of looking at the tree of life. At one level, chesed is any kind of expansive energy. And Gevurah is any kind of restrictive energy. Is always going to be chesed and Gevurah. At a lower or higher level, depends on how you look at it, lower or higher level, it's different, but it still applies. Chesed is loving kindness. It's love. And love is at the heart. Chesed is loving kindness. And Gevurah is self-restraint. It's self-restraint. Gevurah is so needed. Sometimes you want to say something, you keep your mouth closed because it's smart in the situation, which is Bina, which I'll get into in a moment. Anytime you don't do something, I want to do this, self-control. Listen, people are going to have a much better life if they apply the teachings of the Tree of Life. If people learn self-control, if people learn to listen and pay attention to life, while some people have a problem with expression, there's like a block to their expression. And this pathway is a very real thing. This pathway is literally learning to oscillate between these, to be able to move from listening to expression. If you talk all the time in a relationship, you're a little too netzach. If you just listen, then that's the hold, okay? And changeability. Do you adapt every day? Do you adapt too much and change your original plan, which could be seen as flighty? Or are you too hard-headed to ever adapt? Feedback. So all of these are extremely important. Getting to the supernals. Bina consciousness is our intellect and our analysis. Chokmah consciousness is that flash of insight that illuminates the intellect. Now, you'll see that there is not two things. You'll see that there are a lot of switching of gender polarities, of things we think of as masculine and feminine on the tree. And I think that that is a mystery into itself and is part of the mystery of the Tree of Life. In traditional Kabbalah, Bina is the left brain and its intellect. And this is totally different than Lodge magic, like Dion Fortune in her mystical Kabbalah, Dion Fortune, and the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. They flip the tree in the microcosm. Traditional Kabbalah does not do that. The right side is the right side, the left side is the left side. In traditional Kabbalah, I think either system is valid and correct. Okay, I don't think that Dion Fortune was wrong, but there's another way. So Bina comes from the root bain, between. It's the intellect that weighs this against that. If we live with knowledge, meaning not knowledge in books, but if we live intelligently, it's doing what is intelligent. Okay, so this is very important. To have a properly developed Bina consciousness. When you act intelligently, then you could say that there's a proper flow from Bina down to Malkut, when you're able to act intelligently, to act with understanding. Very important. And again, you have to take in your reality, you have to experience, okay? And you take in your reality. But logic, reason, we need to live with understanding is very important. So if your actions are really based upon what is reasonable, okay, we have to have a highly developed Bina. It's where you take things and you weigh them in your mind. Chokmah consciousness is that intuitive flash of insight. And Genesis 1, it is let there be light. That is Chokmah consciousness. It's the flash of insight. And that needs to be developed, and that can be off. So, there is a reason from this switch, from how many of you with modern like Lodge Kabbalah may see it. We're used to seeing the subconscious as like the womb and our conscious mind as affirmations. This is flipped around. Why? Because it's coming from the perspective of prophecy, the perspective of opening up to our intuition. We want the logical mind to be illuminated by intuition, direct experience. So that is what prophecy comes in. This opening up this path. And the meditations are very simple. I did the meditation on Patreon where I talked about how to open up this path. This is the path to prophecy. Again, there are three types of Kabbalah. There is theoretical Kabbalah, where you read books and you think about stuff. That is Binah consciousness. Theoretical Kabbalah is like reading a book on swimming. Chokhmah consciousness is taking a jump in the water. You're getting in the water. It is that direct experience. And what opening up this pathway here is going to allow you to receive more of your intuition. You're going to allow the intellect to be illuminated by ecstasy, by divine consciousness, by your intuition. And this is connected to this idea of prophetic Kabbalah. So theoretical Kabbalah is reading books, it's studying, it's learning stuff. Listening to this video and getting these ideas logically is all Binah consciousness. Direct seeing is where you do the meditations, you do the work. It also requires a certain level of heart, a devotional Kabbalah. You get so close to the divine that you begin to see events before they occur, because you're so plugged into the divine mind, you're so plugged into the flow of things, that you can begin to kind of see events before they occur, perhaps. You can kind of glimpse into the divine mind. You're so united with your higher spiritual principle that you're able to see behind the layers of reality. Hi Rachel, how are you doing? Great to see you here. So, we need to live with understanding. What we're doing is our drive to work, is our eating our plate of food, is what we're doing reasonable? Our society is so weird. Somehow reason became a bad word and a good word. It's just weird. Don't listen to the lies of our culture. The masses are asses. They don't know. Just with all of that, okay? Who cares what society thinks about reason? Like society is any gauge. We need to live reasonably. We need to live with understanding. When I weigh things logically in my mind, does this make sense? Without this state of consciousness, we're going to have problems. We need to live with understanding and live with wisdom. In this case, Chokhmah consciousness being that intuitive insight. Now, something important needs to be addressed here. These could be wrong. Either one of these could be wrong. You may not be thinking clearly. Binah could have incorrect thoughts. I'm talking about in the microcosm, in the individual, we as the tree. Binah consciousness can be incorrect. You could think things that just are not. You could be I'm sure we've all met people that just aren't thinking clearly. They're not seeing reality. Okay, they're getting clouded logic. Chokhmah consciousness can be off. Just because you have an experience doesn't make it true. And this is the dangerous tightrope that we walk with mysticism. I was going to say more for the beginner, but I guess as you advance too, this is the tightrope walk. Okay, we are open to experiences, spiritual experiences. The biggest danger is you have this profound experience. You're going to have many experiences, okay? Just because you had an experience doesn't make it true. There are deceptive spirits, and people think, well, I just felt an energy and it felt positive. Spirits can change kind of how they're experienced. They are able to guard themselves. So I'm sorry, but saying, well, I felt positive or I felt negative when I got the insight means next to nothing. Sometimes Chokhmah consciousness can be incorrect. Okay, so spirits are able to clothe themselves to appear. So just because you have an insight, it could be a deceptive spirit, or it may just be your own unconscious, which is full of fantasy, coming to the surface. There is a thing such as mental illness. And doing these prophetic practices could open up more mental illness. So they're very real dangers, okay? Remember the four that entered Paradis, or paradise. The story of four rabbis going up to the Garden of Paradise. Only one of them came out okay. One went insane, one became an apostate, one died, and one went in peace and came back in peace with the whole Merkaba thing, right? So, anyways, we need to know that the unconscious can be off, okay? And again, it does switch the gender polarities. We're thinking of the unconscious here as that intuitive insight. Why are we seeing it this way? Because we're thinking of our logical mind as being illuminated. We're coming from the perspective of revelation. If you're focused on that aspect, then of course it's going to be put in these polarities. You want the intellect to be inspired by the intuition, but intuition can be wrong. Okay, unless, how do we avoid that? The connection to Keter. The connection to Keter is a saving grace. And this is why the focus on the divine is found in a lot of grimoires. This is why the focus on the divine has been seen as so important. It is that which protects us because we're plugged into the higher reality. Notice that there is a path straight to the intellect from Keter. Superconsciousness, the part of us that's beyond time and space, has a direct pathway to our conscious analysis rational mind. You don't always get insights from Chokmah. Sometimes you get it straight above from Keter. So being plugged into the divine source gives us an extra pathway to receive direct insight from our highest core spiritual nature. If this pathway isn't developed between that part of the mind that's intuitive and the supreme consciousness at your core, the great I am, if there's not a connection path, then your intuitions are going to be off. If there is a path to super consciousness beyond time and space, that's going to make your intuitions more on point. Do you see how useful it is with psychic development, whatever you want to consider it, by looking at it in the tree of life? It really helps to put into perspective. Intuition what we think is intuition can be off if it's not plugged into the part of us that is really connected beyond time and space. If there's a good connection here, your intuitions are going to be more accurate. If there's a good connection here, you're going to be thinking in an illuminated way. If there's a connection here, you're going to increase and up the intuitive flashes in your mind. You'll become like a Mozart or a Beethoven. Inspiration. Just like the great musical composers of the past. They were inspired. The great poets. Poetry or poesy as a divine inspiration, something that goes beyond the mind, a direct inspiration, or prophecy, however you want to look at it. That direct flash is Chokmah, and it needs to be connected. Notice that Keter, our highest divine, superconscious, beyond time and space, is also connected directly to the heart, Tiferet. Sometimes we may receive that divine insight straight to the heart. Okay, so, and that comes down through the heart to our connection and our relation to the world and our physical manifestation. So, let's put this into perspective. We have this divine insight. We're going to put this in the situation that you're about to receive a flash of insight. Okay, again, we're taking Kabbalah out of the books and putting it in everyday experience. We talked about eating, driving. All of this is tree of life. Gevurah is what controls the wheel. Chesed is the gas in the car. Your experience is your hold. Your acting in the world is Netzach. We went through all of these, right? What about the situation of a divine insight? That situation, Keter, is going to well up within your being, and we need to think with the model, but also not take things too literally. The map is not the territory, but it is. It's kind of hard to explain. It's beyond words. That flash is going to spring up in your Keter, and it's going to come down to the level of the heart, perhaps. It could also come straight into just your logical mind. It can come through Hokmah consciousness into Binah consciousness. It can go straight to the heart, and that is going to come down to your connection in the world and in physical reality, manifestation. So all of these need to be developed. If we want to open up Tiferet, if we want to open up the Tiferet center, I hate to use that wording, but yeah, if we want to open up this Sephirotic flow and open up our Tiferet, what if we're getting signals, but we don't have a good developed Tiferet? We're not going to hear the heart as much, right? So you may have these higher experiences, but because this pathway isn't opened up, you haven't developed your Tiferet properly, it may block that divine inspiration signal. So you could call it psychic development, you could call it whatever you want to call it, right? Spiritual development. There's work that we need to do to open up. Okay, we have to show effort also. How do we open up the heart? We're going to need both loving kindness and strength and self-discipline. Okay, we're going to have to do Gevurah work. If you're all chesed and just doing what you feel like all the time, and you have problems doing anything that's discipline, anything that you don't feel like doing, you put off, to properly, your Tiferet is not going to be properly opened. To properly open up Tiferet, you need to have self-discipline. You're going to have to get up and, I don't know, mop the floor or something, right? You're going to have to get up and do things you don't feel like. This self-restraint and giving and is going to open up Tiferet. Also, we need to look at from a lower or higher perspective, depending on how you look at it. You look at the spiritual virtues. The spiritual virtues of love, loving kindness, and strength. And it shows that the Kabbalah has never been about just being a lamb for the slaughter. It's never been about making yourself a victim. Yes, loving kindness, but you have strength. You know when to say no to things. You have restrictions. But you need both of these to open up Tiferet. Without courage and self-discipline, Tiferet is not going to be properly balanced. And we need that loving kindness also. Now, let's put this in a situation of everyday life. Let's say you're going to do something nice for someone. It could be an everyday thing. Let's say you have kids and you're making your kid breakfast, right? Any kind of thing where you're giving of yourself in love and you're doing something you don't feel like doing at the same time. Okay? You're doing something out of love and you don't feel like it. That restraint, you're practicing Tiferet in that sense, because you both have self-restraint. You don't feel like it, you're doing it anyways. That's your Gevurah work. You're doing that. Are you doing it with love? Sometimes we do things that we have to, and we're just like, I hate this job. Or I hate doing this. Right? That's not gonna, you need to open up Tiferet, you need to love what you're doing, even if it sucks. Or you see the bigger picture. You go to work, and you don't just do it because you have to and pay bills and you hate your job. You do it because you love your job. Or even if it's not the best job, learn things to appreciate that are there. Let's say you don't plan to be there forever. Try to take in something good while you're there. Okay? Learn to just a little bit kind of enjoy what you do, whatever it is. You can grumble your way throughout your 8-hour workday, or you could find something nice while you're there. That's finding the spiritual kernel behind the husk, behind the shell of the fruit or the nut, but behind the shell or the husk, you get the spiritual fruit. What is the spiritual fruit in that experience? Okay, what is the spiritual kernel behind the shell and of life? So, this is all just very important. Do you see how practical this really is? We need to be connected to life. We need to experience, to pay attention, to look at the world as it is. Even though we're going to change it, we need to have a real acceptance, a surrender. Again, not like lying down and not fixing things, but a surrender to, okay, I'm sitting in this room right now. It's this time on my watch, being here, accepting this world, and take, you have to have you have to be plugged into reality, and that's this whole consciousness, in order to act properly. Now, all of these show this interaction of these pillars. Chokmah, consciousness, that raw, intuitive force. On a lower level is expansion, any type of expansion, which comes out in our expression, our expressing ourselves, our actions. You could see that while there are paths that connect the other Sephiroth, there are paths, there are interactions between them too. We do see all on a pillar, there's a similarity between these: intuition, expansion, expression. And we see a similarity with the left-hand pillar. Our logic is often, it could come from other places, again, these other paths, but a lot of times our logic is what restrains us. We see, that's probably not the best idea, and we stop, we cut off, we restrain ourselves. And we have to restrain ourselves, we have to kind of limit ourselves, draw in order to have a proper experience. Our experience is often what's going to give us good Gevurah energy. When you're having a bad experience in life, when life is not what you want it to be, if you look around you and you're not where you want to be in life, you have to see it. Don't dissociate. Don't get into your phone. Don't escape it. If your life is not where you want it to be, your step one, hold. Take it in. Take it in. And that's going to lead to change, which is also associated with hold. And then you're going to engage in your self-restraint, your discipline. You're working the tree of life. And you're going to do that with knowledge. Now, too much emphasis is placed on always staying in the middle, but that's not how equilibrium is maintained. Equilibrium occurs like a pendulum, back and forth. Sometimes you really need to focus specifically on hold energy. Okay? Sometimes you need to focus on netzach energy. Sometimes you need more discipline. Sometimes you need to be nurturing and expressive and loving kindness and growth. Anything that's a yes. You ever seen the movie Yes Man? Yes Man with Jim Carrey? That's an old ass movie. Yeah, that's old. Yes Man with Jim Carrey. He was a guy that said no to everything. People would invite him. You want to go to the bar later? Nah. He was a bank loan. He told people no, no, no. That's all Gevurah energy. He had too much Gevurah. Saying no to things all the time. You want to go do this? No, no, no. You're saying no, it could be too much Gevurah energy. And it actually shows in the movie. Some person like hypnotized him or something. I'm trying to remember the movie. To where he'll start saying yes all the time. And his whole life turned around because he started changing it. Do you want to go to the bar later? Yes. He has to say yes to anything. Do you want to take yoga classes? Yes. Do you want to jump out of an airplane? He just had to say yes to everything and say no to nothing, which, again, could become a problem. But that's an experience of where Gevurah could be too much. And, yeah, it could be too much. And often when we're highly disciplined individuals could be a little too judgmental. People that are very disciplined, they've got their stuff together, they're disciplined, they've done this, they've created this. It's also called dean or judgment, and that's the flip side of it. There are some people that may have not done things the way that you do. You may consider them out of balance, but really there are different types of individuals in the world. Their way of being may be a free-flowing expression type of personality. And this is why we have different people and incarnations. So, okay. What in the world? Okay, I'm just looking at the comments. I'm not going to say that. All right. What the hell? All right, so, where was I? Okay, so anytime that you have self-restraint, that's Gevurah. Anytime you say yes to something, or you're expansive, you're doing chesed. This is daily life. Anytime you're watching this video or taking a walk, your experience is hold. Anytime you express yourself, it could be walking into the kitchen and picking up a glass. Anytime you act in the world, expression, that is your netzach energy. Anytime you're connected to the world, right now, we're connecting because I'm making this video and you're listening. Anytime you interact, you're connected to life or events or people or anything. It's going to be yesod. And then we have our physical reality, malkut. So, I don't know how well I did this video. I did say some of this last night. I think it's just so important to understand these. Okay, let's take a look at some of the mysteries on the tree. Netzach, we're saying, is expression here, right? Why? Notice it has a direct path to chesed. It has a direct path to its opposite, hod. It has a path to yesod. Why doesn't it have a direct path to Gevurah? It does, though, not a direct path. It goes through the heart and then reaches Gevurah. Well, just think of this. Restraint and self-expression are going to be, they interact, but they are kind of opposites in a way. Restraining your expression is like putting a limit on your outward flow. So that's also true. Anytime that you restrain your expression, that is going to be these two paths right here. And you need to have, all of these need to be opened up, these paths, and they can be blocked, and we can be too much in one sephira or another, okay? You need discipline. You need love. You need your heart filled with courage and love. And you need to be expressive and also listen to life and be connected to the world in the body, to live with understanding, to use your thinking principle to what you do in the world, to live with understanding, to have that intuitive flash, to be plugged in to super consciousness, that part of you that is beyond time and space, to open up the heart. All of these things need to be opened up. And there are traditional meditations for opening up the paths. And one of the easiest ways is to just, all right, so what was I going to say here? We need to live in accordance with our intuitive insight and with super consciousness. We need to open up the heart. This is how the tree of life applies to driving a car, to going for a walk, to making a meal, to having a conversation with someone on the phone. Them talking is their netzach, and your hod. You're listening to them. Your hod energy. Do you talk all the time? Maybe you have too much netzach. Do you listen too much? Do you need to have this outer assertion a bit more? So, learning to switch between these is opening up this path literally. When you learn, if you're too much netzach, you learn to listen and then you speak. We're making it a phone conversation. You're talking to someone on the phone. You listen and then you speak. You listen, you speak. You're expressing yourself. You're opening up this path. You go from expansive force, the yes, I'm going to do this, of giving energy, to building, to nurturing, and you have yourself, you say no to certain things. That's going to open up learning to have self-restraint and giving. It's hard for many people to have both. It's hard for many people to have self-restraint and giving, whether it's to work, to relationships, whatever. Self-restraint and giving. Okay, at the heart. We need to live with logic and with intuitive insight plugged into our spiritual source, the higher level of the soul. Sometimes these can be blocked off. People may have reason divorced from the intuitive aspect. We may cut that off. And life itself becomes pretty dry when we don't have that intuitive part of ourselves. So these pathways can be blocked, and in my personal opinion and experience, these paths are very real things. Again, we shouldn't think of this too literally, and yet it is. But these pathways, I think, are very real things. The meditation, yes. So this is how you apply the tree of life in your everyday personal experience. All right, this is how you interact with the tree. So very important, and we're going to go into this a lot more. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate y'all. By the way, if you're watching this live, I'm about to delete and re-upload because Facebook deletes lives after 30 days. I want to avoid that, so I'm gonna delete and re-upload. Do you mind coming back in like 5 minutes and giving me a like, a thumbs up? I really appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps my channel and it helps my stuff. So thank you so much for joining me, and that is my way of kind of addressing the tree of life and bringing it down to earth, making it practical. Everything from eating a plate of food to driving the car to picking up a book to read to running an errand. It's all going to relate to the tree of life. So I want people to kind of think about that. Just think about it. The next time you have to get up and do something you don't feel like, just know you're developing, that's Gevurah work. You're developing your Gevurah. Anytime you do something kind, you're engaging in chesed. And know that if you want to really open up your Tiferet center to receive that divine insight, that spark of the divine, you need love and courage. You need love and strength. And it shows us sometimes we have to be harsh with people. It can't just be giving. And through experiencing the world and taking in the world, to really listen to life is developing your hold. Anytime you experience and you listen to life and you pay attention to the subtle hints in the world, you're engaging in hold energy. Anytime that you are expressive, anytime you act or express yourself in the world, it's netzach. Is your expression what you need to do? Is your expression. And we need to never separate from the supernals. We don't ever want to separate. We want our expression to be in terms of understanding. We want to express ourselves with understanding and intuitive insight and always plugged into this highest reality. One of the most basic Kabbalistic practices, meditative practices, is to visualize the Tetragrammaton at all times. It's a devotional practice. It's a very specific practice. I'm not saying that people need to go around doing this all the time. It's something that I've started incorporating where I'll just be sitting down or I'll anywhere that I am. If I think of it, I'll visualize the Tetragrammaton. And that does a few things. It brings our awareness that the divine is present at every moment, wherever you are. The divine is always in front of you. It also instills a sense of ethics, I think. When you realize that the divine presence is there in this moment, I need to act divinely. I need to help someone. I need to, the divine, the highest presence is in this other person. It's like the yogis and the Hindus say namaste. I see the divine within you. By visualizing Tetragrammaton at all times, you keep in mind that this person also has a spark of the divine. That practice is also an interesting thing because I believe, okay, we're going a little off into La La Land, a little into La La Land, but I don't think so. I think it's true because we're talking about these psychic higher forces. We kind of have to go there. I think visualizing Tetragrammaton and doing that a lot helps to infuse it in your aura. And that infusion of the divine name in the aura, it becomes truly a protective circle to a certain degree. It keeps away, to a certain extent, those forces that want to oppose us, to stand in our path, those obstacles. We want shefa and flow. So this is how the tree of life becomes a model of life. Not just something to read about in books, not something to just initiate and go through the Sephiroth, something that applies in every moment, every situation, everything that exists. Take anything from your life, take your job, take your relation, take anything that exists, try to map it on the tree. Is this reasonable? Weigh it all logically. That whole thing is Binah. Is this reasonable? Is this in touch with my intuition? Is this in tune with the divine source? Is this where my heart is? Am I giving enough to the situation? And am I practicing enough self-restraint? Am I saying no where I should or not? Am I saying yes too much and I should say no? I'm not doing that. Are we living in accordance with our hearts? Are we expressing enough? Are we expressing with knowledge and wisdom? Are we expressing in accordance with the divine core, Keter? Or are we cutting off Keter? Are we are we detached from the physical world? We're cutting off our feet. Hold. Are we listening to life? Are we paying attention to our environments? Listening to life. If you just listen, and I don't mean life in some just broad whatever way, I mean just daily experience. Walk into a store, buy a pack of gum. What do you see around you? Who's standing behind you in line? The person in front of you at the counter, do they look like they're having a bad day? Try not to take it too personally. You're just a person in a line to them. What are they going through? Get your pack of gum, walk outside, you're taking in your experience. That's all hold consciousness. We're so busy talking that we don't listen. We need to pay attention. You may notice something there it's something helpful to you. You may notice something to avoid. Any type of experience, we have hold and netzach, and they're both important. We need to be connected to the world and our physical. We need to be tied to the physical world. I want to leave with one important note. Keter means crown. It's something above the head. Keter means crown. It's something above the head. Malkut means kingdom or kingship. Malchut. What is a king or a queen? Because it's mother and father. You could say king and queen. Anyways. What is a king or a queen without a kingdom? It's just somebody in a costume. And this speaks directly to people that are very focused on metaphysical insights, but their lives are in disarray. It's not about just walking around in a kingly costume or queenly costume, the Keter, the crown. There's a kingdom. The physical world is our realm. The physical world is where we manifest that divine presence. The purpose is to bring down that divinity into matter. We are co-workers. The universe is not done. The universe is not even fully created. We are part of the creative agents. We are taking part in the process of creation and our activity. We are creating the world as a microcosm, as a reflection of what happens at a divine order. Our activity, we're still unraveling the potential. We're still pulling back the husks and finding the spiritual kernel into things. We're lifting up matter. We have a purpose. So this idea of the ultimate goal of all things isn't something we just receive from above. It's something that we push as agents in creation, as agents, as incarnated beings with a purpose. Our role is to be part of bringing out the divine potential in all things, making this divine expression, lifting up, making the material world more divine. Maseh Merkava, going up the tree, for the purpose of Maseh Bereshit. So the material world is divine. It is an expression of divinity. And of course that ties into the Shekhinah, the divine presence that's found in this world, which is actually a first step in Kabbalah. If you're looking at this from just a logical perspective, maybe you borrow a little bit with your ceremonial magic, whatever, or is it a path of divine ascent? If you're taking it as actually a path of divine ascent, then the first step is to get plugged into the Shekinah. What is the Shekinah? Okay, I want to close this video with a little bit of mysticism. We did so much about the practicalities of the Tree of Life, which can be done on their own as its own thing. Okay, for the path of divine union, the first step is the Shekinah, which is seen as an aspect of the divine feminine in traditional Kabbalah. Now, what does this mean? We need to understand in the Kabbalah there are two types of divine presence. The first type of divine presence is the divine is everywhere. The divine is everywhere. The divine presence at this level is just as much in horse manure as in a holy place. It's just as much in horse manure, cow dung. It's just as much in the air. God is everywhere. There's nothing that is apart from the divine. Even in manure, anything, there's a divine presence. That is this higher level divine presence in the Kabbalah. Okay? There's a second kind. Even though the divine is everywhere, there's a second kind of special divine presence that is with the righteous, with the sage, with the holy person. There's a second type of special presence, and that is the Shekinah. It's a special presence that comes upon the righteous, the holy. And this special type of divine presence ignites us and pushes our way through the Tree of Life from a devotional union with the divine perspective. It's this, you start off, we have to live in accordance with our conscience. Now, I don't ever want to be a dogmatist in Kabbalah, ever. That's why I try to, we look at these different perspectives. I'm really interested, though, in this as a path of mystical union that's traditional and consistent with the medieval and Renaissance, these classical sources, my understanding, how do I unite with the divine? So, when we live in accordance with their consciousness, that is what righteousness is. It's not a righteous individual that's judgmental and a teetotaler. It's how do you treat others? Kindness to others. Kindness, yeah. When you listen to that voice within you, the conscience, that's the divine presence within us. And some would say that that is the voice of the holy guardian angel. Okay, so that pathway, I try to bring Kabbalah to everyone, irrespective of religion or no religion, because I think everyone benefits. The world needs more light. The world needs more light, and the world needs improvement. And I think the Kabbalah can help to facilitate that. So, what I will say to people that maybe, obviously, if you're Jewish or if you come from a Christian background, there's a long history of Christian Kabbalah, goes back 500 years. People don't want to hear it because it makes them uncomfortable. Cornelius Agrippa was a Christian Kabbalist, he was. Right up there with Pico della Mirandola, whom he learned from, Pico della Mirandola, Johann Reuchlin, whom Agrippa studied, Johann Reuchlin, Cornelius Agrippa, these are the great Christian Kabbalists. And that's 500 years. That already exists. There's Christian Kabbalah. There's the original Jewish Kabbalah, which is still practiced today. And it should be respected because we don't want to appropriate. We want to be able, it's a double-edged sword. You want to have knowledge for the world that can help them, but there should be a limit, okay? We don't need to be going around with kippahs and telling people shalom, okay? If you're not in that. But you can use this knowledge. And then there are many pagans and witches and people that don't believe in any religion. They're people that are witches, pagans, Thelemites, all of this, right? People that have totally no connection to that. I think there are things for them to learn in the Kabbalah. So putting this into perspective about the Shekinah, this special type of divine presence with the holy, what I will say is if you are a pagan, to be a righteous pagan, which is very much in line with the Hermetica. If you read the Hermetica, there's this idea of uprightness, of righteousness, of helping others, and basically not being a horrible human being. If you're a pagan, be a righteous pagan. If you're a Jew or a Christian, or if you don't believe, let's say you don't believe in any religion, how do you treat others? I think as long as you treat others well, and you're basically a decent human being, and you're on this spiritual path, you could receive the Shekinah, this divine presence. This is step one. Step one, when it comes to the mysticism, the divine union, is living rightly and living in accordance to what is in accord with the heart and divine love. So, that is step one, get in touch with the Shekinah, the special type of divine presence that's with the holy, and that helps to push us up. Now that is from mysticism. Everything else I said, you could apply in your life. So this is, anybody can apply this, but I'm just talking about from a mystical, there are many ways of looking at the tree of life in the Kabbalah. So, anyways, so that is basically a quick video, and, or I don't know, maybe it was longer. I don't know how long it was. It been an hour, hour and a half. Alright, 49 comments I haven't looked at. Alright. Hey Kimberly, how are you doing? Let me see. I'm looking at the comments. Seeing lots of wonky comments. Anyways, yeah. Alright, y'all, so I'm going to delete this, and then I'm going to re-upload it if you want to look at it after a while. I'm going to delete this video and re-upload, so if you want to watch from the beginning, come back in like 5-10 minutes. And by the way, give me a thumbs up if you come back and it's uploaded 5-10 minutes from now. So it'll take me just a second. And be sure, if you're on YouTube, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, you know, it helps out the channel. And thank you very much for joining me. And again, what I want people to take home from this video is that when you go make a cup of coffee, or you do anything, you drive somewhere, you're engaging in Gevurah and Chokmah. You're engaging in Hod and Netzach. You're engaging with Binah and Chokmah at all times. Kabbalah is not something in books. It's something that is imprinted in our being. And this is meant to be a model, a map for divine ascent and for the blessings of life, to have shefa, to have flow, to have abundance, to live a beautiful life. We have a model here. So, I'm going to delete the video and re-upload. Thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to give me a thumbs up, and I hope y'all have a wonderful day, and I will see y'all in the next video. Alright, see y'all next time.